Welcome to the SogetiLabs webinar. Welcome to this webinar. We are doing this together with the Applied Innovation Exchange in Silicon Valley, and our topic today is growth through innovation. Should you have any questions during this seminar, during this webinar, feel free to use the questions option in the control panel or use the chat window, and I will make sure that I notice all the questions and I can ask them to our guest. Our guest for today is Andreas Sjöström, who is Applied Innovation Exchange Director in San Francisco. Welcome, Andreas.
Thank you, Tom. It's good to be here.
Nice to have you in this webinar. And we have a nice topic today for everyone, growth through innovation. That is what we are going to talk about. And again, if people have questions, they are allowed to ask those, and I will make sure to ask the questions to you, Andreas. Well, let's kick off with the webinar, growth through innovation. We are talking about innovation in this case. So can you tell us a bit more about an innovation ecosystem, or how do you perceive innovation?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom, for the introduction. And before I get to the answer, also thank you to SogetiLabs for hosting this event. And also one comment I just want to add before I answer your question, just making sure that as we're heading into maybe a new situation again in the environment around us, just want to echo the advice of the experts to continue to stay safe wherever you are. So I'm happy we can engage like this on these types of virtual platforms, and my compliments to you and the team for setting this up in such a professional way. The planning up to this and the way that this looks is awesome. So thank you. So the question about innovation and then linking that to innovation ecosystem, I don't think that link has ever been more important than today. We believe as Capgemini and the Applied Innovation Exchange in the relevance, importance, even critical nature of an innovation ecosystem. Open innovation and working dynamically, continuously with new partners, and just finding the right ideas wherever they are with the right types of ingredients for a success is incredibly important. So the practice and discipline of managing an innovation ecosystem is incredibly important for the outcome of the efforts.
Definitely. And as we at Sogeti tend to make value from technology, that's a nice slogan to use. I can see that there's a big link or a dependency, maybe even on innovation, because it starts with innovation, right? And after that, we can make the value from technology.
Yes. No, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. And that's also why I am really thrilled to be now part of this conversation with the SogetiLabs team and SogetiLabs community, because just rightly so what you said, the tagline and the focus and the mindset, value in the making. I've heard many times this, the saying that goes along the lines of, innovation is where it is happening, where you are making, where you are doing, not where you're talking about innovation. There's a lot of talk about innovation, and that is sometimes, not always, but sometimes kind of an indicator that that's not where innovation happens if it's just talking. So I think, to me, SogetiLabs in the kind of range of Capgemini capabilities is where making happens, is where innovation happens, and where I think the outcome can be driven and growth can happen from those outcomes. So I think already now we've identified two incredibly important components of innovation. One is kind of the innovation ecosystem, which is both internal and external when it comes to kind of a Capgemini point of view. and also the practice. At Stanford University, which by the way, as you know, I just recently transferred over from Scandinavia over to managing now the San Francisco AIE, and I live here in Palo Alto with my family now, and we're just next door to Stanford University, and the design school, or D school as it's called, where things like design thinking, product design, designing physical and digital customer experiences is taught. There is a huge sign hanging from the ceiling, and it says, there is no win, there is no fail, there's only do. That kind of speaks to the importance of doing. So two important components as we kind of approach this subject, growth through innovation, innovation ecosystem, and the practice of doing and learning while doing. That's kind of the critical aspect that we cannot forget when we talk about doing and acting. That there has to be a practice and a maturity around learning as we iterate through these innovation programs and projects.
That's an interesting one, that slogan of doing. I like that as well. And maybe we can even relate it to a famous saying of a Star Wars character called Yoda, who is saying, do or do not, there is no try.
Exactly.
I think the same thing holds here as well, right? It is about doing, it's about showing that not only innovation is about talking, as you were mentioning earlier, it's also about realizing something and then learn from that and do it again and do it better, and take that next step. So that's something that I really like in this environment. I can imagine that the San Francisco area is a real inspiring environment to be in if we are talking about innovation, right?
Yes.
How many innovations are coming from that area? I mean, it is an inspiring area.
Yeah, no, it is truly an inspiring area, and it's almost part of the air that one breathes here. When you meet people, new acquaintances, it's just a very sincere, search of ideas and concepts and networking. I think maybe the word networking is the key word here. It's a very natural way of engaging with new acquaintances. How can I help you? How can I connect you to people I know to drive value or to do interesting things together? I think that's maybe so far what I've noticed, what makes this area stand out in the way it does.
Wow, yeah, nice. And that's because the title of this webinar is called Growth Through Innovation, and I can imagine that growing your network over there contributes, well, physically to the growth of innovation, because you know more people who can contribute to innovative ideas and building it together, just as you were saying. But of course, the title holds something different as well, in growth through innovation. What is the growth part that we are referring to in the title, Growth Through Innovation?
So that's a really good question, and maybe I can switch over maybe to the first slide. I have a few slides that I'd like to share with you in this presentation. Cool. And before kind of just going into some of these numbers, what we are looking at, I just want to say that growth through innovation implies that the innovation has outcome, right? That there is a positive result of innovating. And it's a kind of a different mindset from going to focusing on only doing and learning from doing, and there's only trying. It's kind of this whole notion that builds up to failing fast, and the main point and purpose is the forward movement, and that is only partly true, because it's of course incredibly relevant that what we do has a positive outcome, that it leads to growth. So we're seeing obviously a tremendous focus on accountability in innovation. How are we building in more accountability and proficiency and predictability into innovation processes to get to these numbers? So if you now look at the context we're in today in a global crisis, and what can we learn from historical, quote, bear markets or historical crisis, so to speak? You can see each crisis, the Gulf War and .com and so forth, the global financial crisis, and the speed, the velocity that the market dropped to minus 20%, for example. COVID-19 crisis, records speed or decline in impact across the financial markets, and of course that impacts our customers, that impacts us, that impacts the pace of forward movement. Now of course, yeah, I already prefaced my presence and my presentation with the real seriousness of the context, which is staying safe, and I just want to underline that again. But going back to the analysis of these numbers, look at the tech performance post-bear, meaning what can we expect when we're coming into a recovery, post-crisis situation, where the relative performance of technology, not just the industry, but the adoption of technology, outperforms all other industries. So there is reason and data kind of driven reasons to assume that we are coming out of this crisis with an incredible appetite of more innovation, more digital transformation to drive growth. And I think we're seeing this already. Look at where we are right now in our conversation. Look at the type of platforms we're using. Look at how we're utilizing the cloud, how we're utilizing new types of digital ways to interact, and I can go on. And I think in this context, in SogetiLabs, we all can go on and on about what we're seeing in terms of digital appetite and appetite for change, and then we see growth from that from Capgemini. So that's kind of the first kind of growth through innovation data point I want to put on the table there. And you take the next slide maybe. Oh yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the fact that what is really interesting in this case is indeed, and you already referred to it, we are in the middle of it. At the start of the crisis, we were doing webinars as well, but we were just doing it through a GoToWebinar window with one person on a webcam showing a slide. And well, indeed, look at where we are now. We have a nice setup, a kind of a studio environment where we have multiple video streams coming together. We can position slides next to it. And it becomes much more a situation where, well, you and me would be sitting next to each other and doing a conversation, and you're changing your background on the fly, and it generally looks nice for everyone to experience this, these kind of webinars. And yeah,
exactly.
See, we have all kinds of technology. You were referring to technology, which we are using already. To improve the experience that we are doing. So in that sense, we are growing as well, right? We are growing in doing this. And I can also imagine that one of the other outcomes of this crisis is that since we are doing this all remotely, that this is something that is also, can we call it an innovation, that we are doing more work remotely than we were doing before?
I don't think the actual concept of working remotely is an innovation, but the way we do it, and the impact of it, and the exploration of new constellations in our project teams, the way we plan. There are many sub parts of working remotely that we can find innovation within those kind of substreams of working remotely. I mean, yeah. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
So
So concepts of doing it. Yeah. Let's take a look at your next slide. Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to growth and some numbers. This is from Forrester Research looking at technology-driven innovation and growth through innovation, and it's found that leaders in innovation, meaning those who are excellent in applying innovation, and I use, of course, the word applying deliberately because of the capability I represent, the applied innovation exchange, where we are not just talking, but we are applying innovation. So we learn that applied innovation experts, leaders, grow 3.6 times the pace of their competitors in their industries, which is kind of an enormous number. And you can see on this slide, some key characteristics capabilities that leaders have that laggards don't. And it's just not about being excellent at failing fast or learning, but look at some other important areas like improving non-IT's ability to use new technology. So it's not just the early adopters we need to get on board to get the outcome. And also, how do we shield innovation from blockers? And I think in SogetiLabs and the experts community we have in SogetiLabs, this is maybe your everyday work to shielding disruptive innovation from blockers, which could be regulations, it could be maybe an enterprise architect or architecture that may or may not want to block for this and that policy that actually doesn't apply to the context. So it is many different blockers and challenges that leaders are great at addressing to get to the outcome of growth.
Yeah, and so would you say that a conservative mindset in this respect is also considered a blocker?
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. That's actually that speaks to if I direct you, Thijs, to go to slide 10, the applied innovation attributes. So now I'm going to jump around in my presentation just to answer your question. So go to slide 10 there, Thijs, and let's talk about conservative mindset, because what we found in working with clients that there are indeed 5 attributes in the applied innovation fabric, so to speak. What does it take to be excellent in driving innovation and growth from innovation? And the middle box here, the culturally expressive or resilient, speaks to kind of the innovation culture of an organization, the mindset, the encouragement of embracing risk and being curious by default, being purpose driven. And these are kind of soft topics that has nothing to do with technology but mindset. And of course the other 4 pillars we touched on already, actually, some of them. So landscape driven, you asked the first question, innovation ecosystem, how important is that? And platform driven type of solutions, and platform driven economy we're talking about, and the whole notion of digital ecosystems and all of that, being digitally native and development focused, or maybe in another terms being software excellent. So the practice of being software excellent and really mastering software development as part of growth processes. And then leaving the last one to maybe underline that it's probably the most important one. If you are not customer obsessed in your innovation agenda, meaning you really have to care about your customer and the outcomes that the customer is looking for, the needs, the wants, and this is kind of where empathy comes in. However we can maybe feel empathy in terms of a customer journey, that is where we get to apply that practice. So innovation is not just about exploring the next AI platform or learning Python or R. It's also about understanding what it takes to be continuously and in a sustained way, innovation led in your growth agenda. So that's kind of taking up your question there about mindset. It's actually part of the fabric. Absolutely.
I can also imagine the last remark you've made to continue that innovation, to keep that ongoing. That can be quite a challenge, I can imagine, because it can be quite exhaustive to do innovation after innovation after innovation. And as you mentioned, learning the next R language or the language after Python and the language after that, you can do that, and you can still want to do that, but it will require more and more energy to do so. What I'm curious about is how can do we have a kind of a mechanism to help our customers, our clients, or the new startups around us to start with innovation for once, but also to keep that motor running?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to slide 6, Thijs, now we're going to go back and forth there, but this is really good. I like this flow, so keep this up, Tom. Yes, cool. You're right, and this is where the Applied Innovation Exchange takes on an objective and a responsibility in Capgemini. The Applied Innovation Exchange has kind of 2 ecosystem remits or objectives. One is to make sure that we bring the right partners, big and small, global or local, startup, early stage or late stage, ecosystem in front of the client to together be able to drive change, transformation with Capgemini. So the external ecosystem component, right? We manage that. The other ecosystem part is representing Capgemini capabilities in front of the client as an innovation infrastructure for Capgemini in front of the client. So with that kind of in mind, we have designed a new program that coming back to your question, how can we help clients improve their innovation capability or proficiency? We have launched a new program. First, it's the Applied Innovation Academy. It's a learning forum, a learning academy where we promote and we share the experiences that we've gathered for these, the number of years that the AIE has been around, and we put that in front of the client. A part of the academy is called the Sustained Innovation Program. It is a truly VIP program. So we don't intend to put this in front of every client. We will put this in front of strategic accounts, a few accounts that we will walk through in a 1 year time period, provide strategic guidance on how you apply innovation, how you set up, innovation process and governance. How do you test ideas? How do you test, pilots and innovations, and making sure they work or they don't work, and then that kind of practice, ways of working, and then the industry immersion part, where quarterly we will look at what great looks like in each industry, and also what patterns we can find in other industries, and twist it and then reapply it back to the customer industry to really find the right ideas. Emerging technology deep dives, hands-on with AI or immersive technologies like XR, and then the quarterly advisory sessions with Silicon Valley advisors, experts, external, that we pull in, we craft specifically tailor for the account, and then have them meet with the client, meaning the C-suite of the client. So again, VIP for strategic accounts on C-level conversations. And then of course, the last one is where I think SogetiLabs I think SogetiLabs will actually take part in all of these streams, but the minimum lovable product is a concept that at the AIE we really love from SogetiLabs, with the Thinkubator framework and assets and IP that you're developing. So as part of the Sustained Innovation Program, we are also putting in 4 of those Thinkubator / proof of value projects in collaboration with SogetiLabs. So this is a new initiative for 2021, and one that I have high hopes for in terms of connecting more closely the AIE with SogetiLabs.
That's a really innovative program, and I can imagine I'm almost eager to enter the program, because I can imagine that this academy-like situation is giving you the power to educate and to how do you say that, to bring the new CTO of a company in place, to really give all the knowledge and the power to a new person that wants to put technology at a higher pedestal or make use of new technology, and in that sense building your CTO position within a company, right? So,
yes.
So it's almost as if you're creating a what's it called, a new study, a new line of learning for the next CTO.
Absolutely. No, you're right, and I think if you go to slide 11 and then go 11, we can take it from there. Is part of the answer to the question. The new CTO, the new CIO, CDO, maybe even CEO is. I think that in many conversations I hear statements similar to these statements, and I think it reflects the mindset of the new CTO or the new CEO. The banking license statement, we are a technology company with a banking license, that statement reiterated by OP Bank, I heard it actually first, I think in 2014 actually, so it's been around for a while. We are not a bank, says the bank, we are a technology company with a banking license. And in fact, I heard the first statement myself when I heard the CTO of Lynk & Co, which is a new car brand from the owner of Volvo. I think it's launched or will just launch, and he said, as we prepared a workshop with them, we are a digital customer experience company. We are not a automotive company. We are a customer experience company with a car manufacturing plant. So never mind the car factory, that's irrelevant. We are building digital customer experience and value for our customers. So just looking at the product value proposition from a technology lens and technology point of view, and realizing that it is in the kind of application of innovation and technology, software, digital, into the physical world. It's that kind of transcendence that happens, so to speak, that is innovation and where growth will happen. So this is where I think SogetiLabs again is tremendously important. It's one thing to explain this concept or see it in front of you, and then it's a totally different practice to make it happen and to make it. So that value in the making again. So these are things we have to make, and so that's why I get goosebumps when I get inspired. Now I get goosebumps, really nerdy. But this is where I really think we have a tremendous opportunity in 2021. And maybe if you take the next slide, I think it also speaks a little bit to this with a slightly different twist. Let me provoke you a little bit, and I use this to provoke customers also somewhat. I think that what you're looking at is a part of a portal that is targeted towards developers. So it's a developer portal, and it's a financial services company that exposes their services through APIs, encouraging third-party developers to build new solutions on top of their technology stack. So what is the priority customer in 2021? I would say it's the developer. If you understand the needs and the wants of the developer and the third-party community out there as an organization, you will start to build excellent customer experiences for onboarding them onto your platform, helping them to drive value together with you to a joint customer, or even encouraging building new ecosystems on top of your technology stack. So the priority customer 2021 has to be the developer. Now, of course, it's not 100% true. There are many other priority customers, of course, but start to get this into thinking and engagement with the customer. If you're truly serious about saying we're not a bank, we're a technology company, or we're not a car automotive brand, we're a digital customer experience brand, then you have to be super serious about how you use your digital and IT assets, not just on behalf of your own employees, but also the ecosystem outside of it.
That's a nice priority there. And I was looking at your previous slide with the two nice quotes, where indeed industry it is not industry focused anymore. So it's technology focused in this case. So I was wondering, and we can bring it back again to the title of this session, Growth Through Innovation. If you do this, then this is directly related to the fact that growth is possible, because now you are a technology company with a banking license. So it can also be a technology company with an automotive license, or a technology company with a aviation license, or a spacecraft license, or any other industry, right? So that is now unlocking their potential of technology in all these different industries. And well, to me, that feels like you are unlocking growth at a huge scale, because you're not only unlocking growth through innovation within that industry you're busy with, creating cars or doing banking stuff, but you are trying, or at least opening the door to deliver that technology into other industries as well, and see how that disruptive idea that might behind it will lead to new steps, new stuff. And probably that is also something where we can keep the growth cycle, or the innovation cycle, going, because I can imagine that within one industry, innovation at one point is done, that we are through with innovation, or maybe we cannot come up with something new anymore.
No, absolutely.
Looking at this,
the cross-pollination across industries is absolutely fueled by technology innovation and new ways of interacting, collaborating, creating new value-adding services together. I mean, insurance and financial services to automotive. It's a tremendous, really interesting new ideas that are coming forward in those two sectors meeting. So you're absolutely right.
But maybe it's interesting if we can take a small step into those new technologies around us that might bring innovative ideas, and maybe also ask our listeners if they have any technology where they want to look us into, maybe give a small angle on how we can see, or how Andreas sees the perspective on innovation through a specific type of technology. Everyone is free to enter that in the question or in the chat option in the control panel, and we can have a look at it. And for starters, I was thinking about the banking license. I know that there's a concept called data-driven banking or data-driven finances. Is that something new and upcoming that we can relate to innovation?
Absolutely. I think in the future of banking, if we go there, I think we are at the dawn of autonomous finance. I think automation in both back office and front office, or back office and in front of customers, the banking services are becoming and will become more and more smart, more and more autonomous. So automatically managing your savings or managing the financial goals and how to get there. It's an interesting field, of course. Invisible banking is also part of that, where your banking needs are just being taken care of automatically and with just seamlessly. So we'll see a lot of innovation in the financial services sector. I think there are many other interesting topics around banking that you mentioned 5G. You would be surprised that 70% of financial services companies are making or planning to make 5G related investments in 2021 and onwards. And that's interesting, because really, what is 5G in the financial services context, right? But what it is that, of course, it's the need for financial services comes in as a second step after the first step. So the first step is obviously new use cases being enabled in micro moments as more and more things gets connected. So as things in your home, your workplace environment, in outside on the street, in the public life, when more and more things gets connected, of course the need and the application of financial transactions occur. So on the back of that, we need to prepare these systems and the financial services companies for that new volume type of financial transaction. So there is a connect between emerging tech like 5G, AI, and financial services, of course.
So you're saying that in this case, the OT world, the operational technology world, and the IT world, of course, we are already seeing that they are coming together. But the coming years, we will see a complete integration, or a much more higher degree of OT technology in IT environments, and banking is a nice example, and bringing IoT solutions in that world.
Absolutely. Maybe if you can put slide 13, Thijs, on the screen while we talk about this, and just staying on the subject, because I think it kind of supports the conversation. This is where SogetiLabs and the Applied Innovation Exchange, where we can actually help facilitate the conversation. There is this model of innovation horizons, right? So where do customers invest? In what type of ideas and solutions? And you see the two axes is technology and business model. And the current technology with the current business model, the current way of working in operations, there is an overweight in investments in the here and now. And while of course we believe you should invest more in here and now than in the next 10 years, because that's going to be expensive bets as uncertainty grows, right? But we need to help our clients to look at what are the new technologies and the next wave of technologies in the coming 5 to 10 years, and what should my brand look like in that context? What should my organization, my product, my service, how can we kind of plan for that? That means in order to get there, we need to start experiment, we need to start to learn. So the investments need to also start to go into the new business models and the next business models, as well as technology. This is a conversation that SogetiLabs and the AIE can absolutely add tremendous value to clients.
Yeah, exactly. I see. I saw a nice question coming in on the digital currencies. We were talking about the banking environment, of course. And there was a question coming in on the future of digital currencies. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we will see adoption of digital currencies. I think that's been a topic for maybe the last 3-4 years. We haven't seen the word massive yet, maybe not even adoption, but it is a much more mature market or context today, of course, than it was 2 years only ago. I see more financial analysts from Bloomberg, for example, being much more affirmative, confirming the relevance of digital currencies and the adoption. So I think we will see adoption moving forward. When it becomes massive, that's maybe the key word there. I don't know, but the adoption will grow, and maybe making the frustrating link between digital currencies and blockchain, because we often fall into the trap that blockchain is only about the digital currencies, which it is not. I know, so don't jump on me now. But blockchain is, of course, one of those key components in digital currencies. And as blockchain adoption grows and maturity and understanding in industry, we will see, of course, digital currencies riding that kind of maturity and understanding elevation, so to speak. When I got there, I frequently use the Meetup community. If you download the app Meetup and you create a profile there, you get a good view on open meetups around you where you are in your location. People with joint interests and just wanting to meet up, right? So Meetup, maybe you're familiar with the concept, but I use it frequently, not just to meet up with people, but also to see what is happening, what are the trending topics. And to my surprise, when I got there, I used it. I was expecting to see a lot of machine learning and AI meetups. Of course, there are, but there are many more blockchain meetups, blockchain related gatherings. So that it says something about there's movement in the community. So that's kind of my maybe long version of answering the question.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I like that one. It's a nice tip for everyone, of course, to use Meetup as a kind of trend watching tool, right? Yeah, I like that. I'm going to use that one.
Awesome.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think put slide 9 there as a backdrop also, so we can also cover some of your other questions, Tom.
Cool. Yeah, I was also thinking about the digital currencies while you were talking about it, and the wider adoption of it. I can also imagine that digital currencies not only are available for us, to buy things or use it to do transactions with. Well, it's obviously used for doing transactions with, but we also have this complete next or parallel world of transactions that is called the digital currencies in games. For example, Fortnite has V-Bucks, and all these. Every game almost has its own type of currency which you can use in game, which is in parallel to the is it called physical world? Maybe it's also already digital currencies, but we are converting it from one digital currency to another, and that's also a whole world where digital currencies are already very big, but are going to be maybe even bigger than we can imagine right now.
No, I agree. It's one of those areas.
Exactly, and it's good to have this slide on indeed of other technologies around us, autonomous things. But and one is not on here, and we have been talking about this in the past as well, Andreas, and that is smart devices.
Right.
What do you What is your opinion on a smart device? Are there smart devices around us at the moment?
So that's a good question, and let's do, Thijs, let's change things around then. So let's go to slide 14. So yes, that's the notion of smart devices is not a new one, right? We talked about smart devices for a long time, and I think what we're seeing is just a very exciting development. We see both the form factors, types of actually usable, nicely designed form factors being married to very potent working AI machine learning leveraging platforms. So conversational UI, location aware, context aware. Of course, I'm speaking about technologies from both AWS and Google, Apple, of course. The expression, the outward interface, as you see, the Google Home or the Alexa or the Series of the world are just the skin, right? It's just kind of the interface. Underneath is a rich technology, framework, layers that consist of these exciting, machine learning and smart services, which we can use when we build solutions and build out ideas that make these devices smart. So the connection between form factor and AI, machine learning, this is where smart devices happen. And the question is, can we make smarter machines? And you take the next slide. It's kind of linking to one of my sources. One of my sources of inspiration when it comes to AI is Danny Lang. You should follow him on LinkedIn and Twitter. He used to be general manager of Amazon machine learning and head of machine learning at Uber. Now he is VP of AI and machine learning at Unity. And I'll come to Unity in a bit, but his view on AI and machine learning connected to smart devices or smartness, and he kind of likens the notion of smart with it feels like it's a human being hiding behind the system. It's a human hiding in my watch. It's a human hiding, and I get kind of the feeling, the sense that I can talk to the person, in my phone or in my watch or wherever, and I get responses which are context aware, and I get proactive messages or communication. So the whole conversational UI AI is part of that, and just the learning mechanism behind it, which is kind of why I believe the word smart is relevant. It is a learning mechanism behind it. If you take the next slide there, just to kind of close the loop with Unity. Unity, as many of you in SogetiLabs will know, is comes from the gaming industry, right? With its gaming platform, 3D rendering and all of that. What Danny Lang has done the last couple of years is transformed Unity into becoming not only a gaming platform, gaming company, but they are exposing now their own, not only their 3D layering or rendering engines, but also their artificial intelligence and machine learning and simulation frameworks with reinforcement learning, exposing those, providing those to industries. So in automotive, in transportation, and in manufacturing, more and more of our customers are now leveraging Unity platform to simulate. For example, BMW runs, I think, more than 95% of the car simulations now on Unity. And I've seen in retail, I've seen retailers simulate what happens now in the COVID-19 context. What happens if we put these mitigating practices in our retail store with one one-way lanes in the store, and if you separate people in the store, how does it, how does that look like in terms of risk, so to speak? So Unity is a really interesting partner in the Bay Area, and on the map you can see the AIE and Unity were literally neighbors across across San Francisco there.
Okay, cool. I see a couple of questions coming in, Andreas. So I want to ask those questions to you from our listeners. And the first one is from Sergio, and he's asking that business models are evolving to be more platform-based. And do you see innovation itself to be enabled more and more by innovation platforms, especially in these remote distributed environments?
Can you repeat the question again so I get the context?
Sure. Yeah, we see that the business models are evolving to be platform-based, right? Do you see innovation to be enabled more and more by innovation platforms, specifically now in these distributed environments around us?
Yeah, yes, I do. I believe in innovation platforms, and I interpret this to be platforms specifically designed to help manage innovation processes, everything from ideation, selection, storing learnings, co-innovating with external ecosystems. So just managing the innovation kind of process. I believe that segment in the market is really important. I think it's under leveraged. I believe in a further pandemic context that they will be increasingly important. I think it can, if we apply and use a platform with those characteristics at the AIE and in SogetiLabs, in Capgemini, we can even further help our clients improve their innovation capability and also create this kind of a stickiness between us and the client, which is a good thing. Yes, I believe in the importance and relevance. To be honest, however, I have yet to come across, I think, the past 2 or 3 years, a client that asks for such a platform or is looking for a platform like that. So if this is to happen, I think we need to bring in the value conversation around those platforms with the client.
Okay, and that's a nice remark that you have there. That this demand from our customers is not really there yet. You have to come across that, and that leads me to a second question that is coming in, and it's from Sampath. And the question is that the observation of today is that not many clients are truly looking for a step changing or disruptive innovation in the current conditions, rather than incremental innovations, which do not call for huge investments. They are conservative in that sense. Is this right, or could you share your views about this?
That they are not looking for disruptive innovations. Was that the question?
Yeah, exactly. So incremental steps, nice and slowly changing to the next level, and maybe it relates to the picture of your horizons, the 3 different horizons and investments you're willing to make.
Exactly. So no, that analysis I think we already kind of covered in terms of we believe that there is an overinvestment. We're overweighted. Customers are overweighted in the incremental, and too few resources are applied to the disruptive and changing the game kind of experimentation and learnings. We're not suggesting that we should flip it and at the majority put all of your investments there, but we need to shift some of it over to those conversations. I think there's a nice model that Forrester put out there a while ago that kind of has these 3 categories. One is the incremental innovation cycle, which is kind of version 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, which doesn't really take the brand or the company to that change the game transformative place, and it doesn't really drive growth at the extent that the market, I believe, expects. On the other side of this is radical change, and if you apply kind of the notion of wanting to achieve radical change through your innovation process, and only that puts the organization at great risk, because every innovation initiative becomes betting the entire farm every time in every initiative, putting massive investments into experimental technologies. That's going to be too expensive, and failing has too far-reaching consequences, so to speak. Where in the middle we need to stay. We need to stay in sustained innovation, where we can afford to fail sometimes, and where we are not kind of 100% predicting the outcome, but we're not either very flippantly say we can fail anytime. So there is a model around this, and at the AIE and with SogetiLabs, I think we can help the client balance this approach in an efficient way.
Cool. Yeah. I can see that you don't want to be punished by the investment you made with respect to one specific technology, right? Because you've placed the wrong bet on the wrong technology, and maybe that's also where we started with, that growth through innovation is also is maybe even the most about bringing all those different people together, growing your network, where we started with, is something that is needed in order to make the balance between far horizon innovations, far horizon investments, compared to the relatively short term and incremental steps that we can take.
Yeah. Before we come into the wrapping up, we are coming close to top of the hour. If you put slide 9 as a backdrop to the closing kind of wrapping up, I think it will put a nice context around it.
Cool.
Because this is the customer in the room. This represents the customer in the room. And we talk now in an hour that went far too fast. It was really good talking to you. We kind of focused on innovation, and in some context, technology-driven innovation, and this is really relevant. There's value from these domains to be applied, but I want to also underline and stress the fact that these topics are brought to us by the client. The client expects this. The client expects us to advise them on platform-driven business. They expect us to advise them on AI everywhere. They expect SogetiLabs, the AIE, and Capgemini to have a point of view and help them build autonomous things. They expect us to drive new value from supply chain innovation and even the interesting area of biotech. So we're not talking about innovation for its sake or technology for its sake, but for its outcome and for growth through innovation. And that's also where I think some of these trends in the market lies. It's not we're not a bank, we're a technology company with a banking license. This whole software technology trend, it's not just because of an inner drive from this industry. It's because of their customers expect it. There is a customer expectation. So we need to always stay in tune with what we proactively drive and also what the market expects to drive growth through innovation. So that's kind of my remarks regarding this slide, and maybe you want to have a final question, Tom, and wrap it up, but it's important to do that. Again, purpose of all of this, I want the AIE and SogetiLabs to make 2021 a really strong year together, and I think with all of this on the table, I think future is really bright.
Well, these are really nice parting words, I would say. It's a nice wrapping up of this session. Well, let me thank you, Andreas, for your time and for your insight in well, everything related to innovation. And I had much fun in talking to you, talking about the different topics of innovation that came across the table. So thank you for that. And indeed, it is time then, and this session went way too fast, but
Correct.
I think that's a good thing, because then we had a good conversation, and hopefully the audience felt the same way. And well, I want to thank you again, Andreas, for your time.
Thank you, Tom.
And I want to thank the audience, of course, for listening to us and attending this seminar. And of course, if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us, and we'll take it up and discuss it further.
Absolutely.
Thanks for now.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. And also thank you to the man behind all of this. Thank you, Thijs. Thank you, Margot, and the entire Sogeti Deepika, of course. Also, thank you, SogetiLabs. It was really fun engaging with you. Thank you.